Moving on to our amazing next speaker. Tiernan, I'm still sorry if I messed your second name up. We got Tiernan Douieb. Hey. Tiernan is a writer, comedian, and tired dad. He has spent the last 20 years traveling the world doing stand-up comedy, shouting jokes at people. But now he is mostly just co-running the comedy club for kids, writing for television shows such as CBeebies, Hey Dougie, and Eating Crisps. Oh, and he's been T1 for ages, like really ages. Ladies and gentlemen, Tiernan.
It's one of those things when they say, can you send in your bio? I didn't realise he'd have to read it. I'm sorry, Duke. Hello, how are we doing? We good? Yes, good. I have to say I've been really excited about talking to a room of fellow type 1 diabetics because I know I can tell myself that if your attention wanes, it's not me, it's the post-lunch rise. So I'm very, very pleased. Isn't this a wonderful venue, by the way, to have talking about diabetes where they have the refreshments, which are incredibly sugary, but then the toilets were down so many steps it balanced it out by the time you got there, which is exactly what we need. So, I've been so excited about this, I almost ironed this shirt. I didn't, but it was the thought that counts. And my name is Tiernan. Hello, I am a stand-up comedian. I'm the second one you've seen today. Just to tell everyone out there with type 1 that, you know, if you try really hard, you can be nowhere near as handsome or successful as Ed Gamble and still be a comedian. So there's a whole breadth of comedy that you can manage if you try. I'm a stand-up comedian, I'm a writer, as Duke said, I'm an exhausted dad of a 5-year-old who likes to make my life difficult by saying, I can't have a bath, it's too watery in there. And I'm also a diabetic. Otherwise, you think, well, what are you doing here? It's fine. I'm meant to be. It's okay. I've been diabetic for silly amounts of time, which we'll get to. I should also say that it's quite unprofessional of me. I am using notes, and people get quite funny when comedians use notes, but when musicians use them, it's fine. So think about your double standards. So, listen, I wanted to start by telling you a bit about my journey as a diabetic. I left my flat, it was raining, it was horrible, somehow sunny at the same time. What's wrong with this country? And then I went down the road, and then I turned the corner, I had to go down the hill to Woodside Park Station, which is like, it's one of those bits of the Northern Line no one even believes exists. And then I had to wait for the tube, it took too long, and then I had to sit opposite a man that wouldn't stop picking his ear as though he was trying to tune into a radio. I'm very aware that you're thinking that's not your journey as a diabetic, that's just your journey here. But every journey I do is a journey as a diabetic because I am one, right? I am one. That's my life. And, you know, it's weird for me because I don't really think about, I don't really think about being a diabetic very often. On that journey, I didn't really think about being a diabetic. You know, apart from when I left my flat and I scanned my arm and I thought, oh, my sugars are a bit high. Maybe I should walk quite fast to the station because that will bring them down. And then I raced all the way to the station. Then I got on the tube and then I scanned my arm again and went, oh, no, now they're going too low. I walked too fast. That's ridiculous. I better have a jelly baby. Oh, no, what if this jelly baby makes me too high? All the while the man opposite fiddling with his ear is going, did he just take a picture of his armpit? And then my brain is just reeling, going, what's going on today? Why am I in the 45% when yesterday I was like 97? What's happened? Am I ill? Am I thinking about being ill? Did I read a book where someone was ill? Did I read the number 3 incorrectly and I thought it said ill? Is it too cold? Is it too hot? Did I exercise too much? Not enough. You know, is this something I did like 5 years ago? Did someone put a curse on me when I pushed in front of the queue at Tesco Metro? Maybe there's a butterfly 3 continents away that in 1976 flapped its wings too fast and that's why today isn't working. I just don't know. I never ever know. And then I remember, no, it's because I had cake for breakfast. But it's I'm gonna be weird because we've had a lot of tales today. I kind of like being diabetic. I know that's weird. I take a secret pride in the fact that I have got the only chronic condition where you can fix some of the worst bits with a biscuit. And I like that. It's interesting. And it's also, I think, because I've never known anything different, right? I got diabetes when I was 4 years old, which, if any of you can see my eyes, that was circa 800, 900 years ago. And I've been told the story about, I don't really remember it, I was 4, I've been told the story about how I got taken to hospital after, my parents took me to hospital after I'd been sort of weeing for about 2 weeks straight like an excited mouse, and then the story is always it took about 3 nurses to restrain me so I could have my bloods taken, and that's one of those things that I'm sure you'd hear and you think, oh, that must be quite a traumatic experience, maybe cause some sort of trauma in adult life. And I'm just thinking, no, I was a super tough 4-year-old. 3 nurses, what? Yeah, took them that many because I was so hench. And, you know, and it was weird, like, for any of you that have been, I know we heard from Leslie earlier, who's been diabetic longer than me, but any of you have been diabetic for a very long time, the equipment was different. Like, when I was first diagnosed, the needles were, they were 12 foot high, they had to be fired at you via a cannon. And to do a blood test, you had to use a sword and a steady hand, and that's not true, obviously. But I tell you what I do sort of remember is that my first blood test kit was it was like an eye patch shape, this hard bit of plastic like an eye patch shape, and it had at the bottom an exposed pricker. That's not the right word, is it? That sounds wrong, doesn't it? An exposed pricker. That can't be what it's called. There's children in here. I shouldn't say that. Lance, a jabber thing, and then you'd press, and then there'd be this little loop of plastic at the end that looked like it couldn't defend against a strong breeze, and then you'd put your finger in the end, and you'd press the button, and it would fire the pricker into your finger like a mini violent catapult. And that sounds pretty horrible. And it was, but did I enjoy showing absolutely everyone in my class? Oh, yes, I did. I absolutely loved it. It was the coolest thing I could have ever taken into school. I had the best show and tell out of everyone, right? Every morning at school, it was a delight. I got to skip maths to go to the welfare room to do a blood test and have a biscuit. And, of course, years later, that's probably why I'm overweight and can't count past 12. But I don't care. It was great, you know? And a very big high point came for me, because my parents had to inject me, and I imagine that was very tough. They liked to tell me how tough it was. And I got to go, when I was 7, I got to go to diabetic camp, and that's where they taught us to be ultimate type 1 warriors, where you could learn exactly how to go low while sailing, visiting a farm, or be on a roller coaster. And they taught me to inject myself, which was amazing, so my parents didn't have to. Which I do like to mock them, because they say it was very hard injecting. I was like, I did it when I was 7, it can't have been that hard. Yeah, so I got to inject myself, and that meant I could show off even more at school and make some of my classmates feel quite violently sick. And my brother, actually, my younger brother, has needle phobia, and I feel very proud about being part of that. So... And in fact, when we were in secondary school, when we had the BCG injection, I very proudly went to the front of the line and said, I'm fine with needles, and I asked the nurse, can I do it myself? And thankfully, she said no, otherwise I'm certain I'd have TB by now. So, and that's kind of how I've always seen it. I've always sort of found the positives to it. I've always seen it as not that bad, right? When I was at school, my best friend, still my best friend, he had quite bad asthma and lived on a hill, so he had it way worse. And although... he's now an adult, and he's chosen to live on a hill, so I think you do it to yourself. But diabetes I can honestly say, it's never stopped me doing anything. Being a type 1 diabetic has never stopped me doing anything in my life. Not quite true. I'll tell you what it stopped me getting mugged once when the guy that asked me to give him all my money, I said, I'm diabetic, if you mug me, I'll die, and he panicked and ran away. Total lie. That's absolutely true, but it was brilliant. It also stopped me going on Ramesses Revenge at Alton Towers, where I really conveniently went very low just so I got to the front of the queue, which is totally a coincidence, definitely, and not at all, because I didn't want to go on a ride that spins you in ways that should not be allowed, and I'm sure are breaches of human rights laws. And of course, type 1 diabetes stopped me running a marathon. Well, that's what I told everyone, and then it was on the news a couple of years ago that an 80-year-old type 1 diabetic ran the marathon. I thought, well, thanks very much! You've ruined it for me now! So unfair. But what it hasn't stopped me doing, it hasn't stopped me doing a very silly career. I've been a stand-up comedian for 20 years this year, and obviously there's been some hurdles that diabetes has thrown in the way of that, but it hasn't stopped me having not a proper job. Thanks, Dad. And you know, I can tell you there's definitely been moments I haven't been able to deal with heckles as well, because someone shouted something at me and I've got something for that. No, I'm going low, I've got nothing. And it's not really a great retort to go, hold that thought, I'm just going to do a blood test and have a jelly baby, I'll be back. It's not really that snappy. Travelling all over the world from show to show meant that I didn't really always have a carb guide to what I was eating. I didn't always get a 20-minute warning till food was there, so do your insulin now. And I did also, at the time, have to learn how to say in Maltese and in Flemish, do you sell any insulin? Because I may have broken mine. Yeah, thank goodness in Dublin, they already speak English. So I had a very fun few days in Hong Kong a few years ago where I spent days just my sugars going all over the place. What's wrong? I've lost control. And then it clicked. Oh, I forgot to change the time zone on my pump. And it was set for breakfast at 9 p.m. at night. And then I fixed it, and I went low constantly for 2 weeks because the humidity there is crazy. So it's... I've used diabetes to write quite a lot of jokes. It's been quite useful to me. I've been able to use it. And every aspect of it. I had a bit of complication. I had a bit of diabetic retinopathy. And I got to tell audiences how upsetting it was that I'd had laser eye surgery but still don't have laser eyes. You know, how it's ironic that when you go to the ophthalmology department, it always takes them so long to see you. And that's fine. A groan is still a response. And, you know... So diabetes didn't stop me doing anything. It didn't stop me getting 30 minutes of complete silence at the Blackwood Miners Institute in 2014. That still disturbs me. It didn't stop Gillian Anderson shaving my back for charity in front of a live audience. Yes, really. And it didn't stop me doing the only job I wanted to do in my life, which is pretty amazing. It didn't stop me becoming a parent just nearly 5 years ago, although... Not sleeping through the night is the absolute worst. We heard Araga-san's story of being a parent earlier. The other side of it, if you are a parent and you've got type 1 and, wow, not sleeping through the night does really fun things to your sugars. I remember going to my doctor, she's like, you're having highs at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Yes, I know I am. I know that's happening. Very tricky. Luckily, now she's older, I just have to deal with the other end of parenting and being diabetic, which is remembering to take my insulin or do my blood test, while all the while you've got this little voice going, why isn't sand bigger? What if we were all upside down? Not now, please, not now. I have now got her perfectly trained to say, Daddy, are you going low? You could have one of my sweets, and I'm always going low. So... So yeah, so it hasn't stopped me doing any of that, which is great. But one thing that is funny is a few years ago, my doctor, my brilliant doctor, Dr. Anthony at the Whittington, I've got to give her a shout out, she's fantastic. She realised that a lot of my blood sugar spikes that were affecting my HbA1 were happening while I was on stage. Yeah, performing caused my sugars to rise for about 2 hours and then fall. By the way, being here, not great for me, thanks guys. And it's fine. And so I had to learn to kind of fit my pump around that. And then the pandemic kind of killed all live performance. And then suddenly, for like a year, I switched into a normal routine. And suddenly that meant my control was better than it ever had been, which was very strange. And I felt a lot better too. And then that meant that I thought maybe I need to stop doing this job that I love, because maybe I feel a lot better if I don't. And so I've kind of now switched from shouting at people in darkened rooms, this exception, and I now sit and write, which means I've kind of got a 9 to 5 and I eat food that I know. I've got less time sitting in a car with my insulin going nowhere. I've got less opportunities to forget to pack all my supplies before I travel up and down the country. And I don't have to carry one of those annoying letters for the airport that says, I swear I'm not just carrying this for fun, right? Why would I? It's loads of annoying stuff. I would much rather have the space for duty-free booze. You know, and it means I've got more time to exercise. I exercise loads just to maintain this shape, which is disappointing. But I do worry if I stop, I might just turn into a puddle. I don't know how it works. And then that made my life easier. But then, of course, technology has made my life so much easier. I've got a Libra, so I scan my arm for blood tests, and it has also brought the fear that I think it resembles a security tag in most shops, and I think they're going to assume I've stolen an arm. That is, I've also got a fear of narrow cupboards. Oh, no, it's knocked off. But I've got that. That's been incredible for me. I got an instant pump that actually worked. It's my third one now, which has been amazing for me. Second one was not amazing. I won't name them, but oh my God. And this one's been incredible, and I love having a pump that works. I am slightly paranoid that someone will use the Bluetooth to hack my pancreas one day, but that's fine. And there's also always the issue with pumps. I find I've got one on a cable, you know, that you have an argument, you storm out the door, it gets caught on the door handle, you're straight back in, and then you've really lost the power of the last word. But all of that means I'm just not thinking about being diabetic as much as I used to have to. And in a weird way, that kind of worries me. You know, it's been so much of my brain, as someone mentioned, I think it was Yasmin, about how you have 180 decisions a day. It's been so much of my brain. That's weird if I don't have to use those for that anymore. I'm hopefully getting a loop system this summer, which I'm glad I learnt about it earlier, because I just assumed it's a loop system. It probably has a shuffle option as well. But, you know, if I get that, that's even less control that I have to think about. What am I going to do with that spare time? Am I going to have to get a hobby? Do I need to get a Tamagotchi? What's like... And more importantly, where am I going to find the way to get these excuses? Like, I can't do bedtime stories, I'm going low. Like, I can't use that anymore. Will I still have a reason to eat chocolate at midnight? You know, and there's a bit of me that fears if there was ever a cure for type 1, which I hope there is, but also I'd lose a big part of who I've been for my whole life. And that's quite weird, you know? I'm sure I'd stop caring about it like 5 minutes into a massive meal going, I don't have to carb count. But like, until then, it's strange for me. So, you know, if you can excuse the awful pun, which is that, you know, I've been 38 years of being type 1, and it has had its highs and its lows. It's a terrible pun, but I insist, it's going in, it's happening. But I think, like, being able to, like, know that I can use my brain time to manage that while doing everything else, it's kind of helped me manage other things in my life. It's made me feel braver about doing other stuff and just thinking I've got to do what I want, you know, because I've got to spend all this time on my diabetes, I've got to spend the rest of my time doing what I actually want with my life. And I can manage most other things. Well, apart from a show at Blackwood Miners Institute in 2014, which still bothers me. But it's part of me whether I like it or not. So, you know, I may as well embrace it, and I have done. I should add at the end that I'm not an expert in it. There's a funny thing with stand-up comedy where they tell you if you've done it for 10 years, you know who you are on stage, and you suddenly feel like you've reached another level. And I did. 10 years into comedy, I could walk into any room of any crowd and go, it doesn't matter to me anymore, I can talk to you, I know where the jokes are. 38 years of being diabetic, I still go, why has that happened? What's going on? Is it the weather? Oh, it's the cake for breakfast, again. You know, I've still got a lot of questions. I learned earlier this year that persimmons are really dangerous for diabetics. I've never known that. In all my years of life, I didn't know that persimmons like to shoot you really high. Last year, I found out that ackee shoots you really low. If only I was good at meal planning, I could eat them both together in a sandwich. I haven't managed it yet. Also, World Diabetes Day. Do you celebrate it with a cake or not? I still don't know. So, but they're all fewer questions and concerns than I had before, because look, I'm just aware this is a brilliant time to be diabetic. I know it's a weird thing to say. I've been positive about it, but really right now I'm even more positive about it. There's so much brilliant support. There's brilliant events like this. There's amazing gadgets. There's so much more understanding, and that means it shouldn't stop you doing anything you want to do, even if that's not a proper job like I've done. And I will say this as a final note that, you know, if you do find that diabetes ever does get you down or it does feel too tough, just remember my friend with bad asthma who lived on a hill. So thank you very much.